How's it going, everybody? It's Coach Edwards here. Happy Goalie Wednesday. And I have to apologize. I am completely behind the eight ball right now. I just did a goalie coaching session, did an audit, did a checkup. So wherever you are in the world, do me a favor. Leave me a comment. Just let me know where you are. Leave me a little like. Leave me a little heart, a thumbs up. Whatever you do out there in the world, it's all good. It's all good. So happy Wednesday, everybody. I realized when I was looking at last week's numbers for how things were going, I realized I was like, oh, my numbers are down a little bit today. And then they picked right back up. It was great. We were having like record numbers, and things went down again. And then I realized when I got off, everybody's watching like the riots at the White House or the Capitol. So that was kind of fun. So I was feeling pretty good about myself that I was able to hold an audience even during an insurrection. So that's pretty, that bodes well for me. So great stuff today. Hey, Joel Rose, good to see you guys. Man, this is gonna be a good day. A lot of good. Joel, you're gonna love today's topic. Hey there, Chris, Landon, Barb, Chris. If you didn't get my email, but your goalie audit is in the forum in your private coaching thread, so have a look. Good stuff there. Good shots in the backyard. Love your backyard, by the way. That's one thing when I do goalie audits, when I do goalie reviews for everybody, for my members of Lacrosse Goalie University, I get to see everybody's backyard, which is kind of cool. So, and I got to see your lovely, adorable lab. I think a good training tip, I just realized this today doing Landon Kunkel's goalie audit, was that if you put your dog in the cage, and the deal is you have to keep your dog from getting hit, your goalie's save percentage will go up incredibly, right? I think that's just a fact. Rob Shepard checking in. Good to see you, my friends. Ben Stone from Melbourne. Oh, this is amazing. Ben, what's the deal down there? Are you playing lacrosse? Abby, right? Remind me. Are you guys playing lacrosse down there? It's summer, right? So you got to be playing. COVID allowing you to play. What's going on? Love to hear it. Jody Hall, good to see you. Awesome. Everybody's checking in. I do not have other pages open, which is not good. This is not good. So I'm doing my best, guys. But yeah, I'm behind the eight ball here. So there we go. All right. So hey, I hope everybody's safe. Everybody's COVID free. Everybody's wearing their masks where necessary. It's really interesting up here where I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Obviously, the sport of ice hockey has now we've been all shut down. But what's really interesting is to see the pockets that are opening up and masks and things being worn to kind of get kids playing. And I'm really positive for what's going on there. For those of you guys that might have missed, so last night, in my other Facebook group at Raising High Performing Athletes on Facebook, I did a talk on taking 100% responsibility. And so for those of you guys that haven't seen that, you're going to have to head on over there. But you can also go to athletespecific.com, check out the stuff there. Lots of really, really good stuff going on. And but that was a really interesting topic because when Nick Saban, for those of you guys that aren't college football fans, this might seem a little weird, but for those of you guys that are, you'll know where I'm going with this. But college football fans, like Alabama won the national title a couple nights ago. And it was really interesting because even with COVID, the team that basically took 100% responsibility and made no excuses won. And it was really fascinating to kind of watch that. So I was really, really excited to see that. And so to share that with your athlete, go check out my other Facebook group, my Facebook page over there. I'm at Olympic Jonathan on Facebook, but you can do that. And but it's a really interesting topic because I want your athletes, like, it's very easy right now, even with COVID. It's very easy to kind of make it an excuse, right? But I also know that values and performance collide. Okay, so what I mean by that is, like, sometimes this COVID stuff and the protocols and everything, it seems all too much for a lot of people, especially with some of my goalies that are in college. Like they realize this year. They're like, dude, we want to play, but man, this is crazy. So I get it. I get it. It's not an easy decision. Everybody's got to make their own decision. Okay, so tonight I've got something cool. Matthew Gregory's in from Cape Cod, Mass. Good to see you, Matthew. Matthew, to answer your question, you are on my page, but the comments kind of come in from all over, from Facebook, from my other like Facebook groups and YouTube and stuff. So they all kind of pile in. I see them all kind of under a dashboard. So if you're not seeing comments, it's just because you're over there. So I apologize for that. But I'll walk you through the comments as they come. Okay. So we're gonna got some good topics tonight. As always, if you got a question for me you'd like to have covered, just email me, coachedwards@lacrossegoalietips.com, or you can message me here. I'll try to get to it. Or if you're on Instagram, you can also see me there. I'm not really sure what's going on here. Am I on? My Instagram seems frozen, but that's fabulous. So I got something fun tonight. So the first topic we're going to cover tonight is about voice, and it's about how, not necessarily what to say, but how to say it. Okay. So dealing with young athletes and young voices, and you get kids in the cage who you say, hey, you got to yell this, this, and this, but they're like not the best. They're not socially the epicenter of their team. And so sometimes you get a young kid, barking out orders to like, a senior midfielder, and that doesn't go very well. Or you've got kids who just they like lacrosse, but they're kind of shy, and they migrate into the cage, and now they got to yell to people. Like, what the hell's that, right? So what I thought would be kind of fun is I invited my mom, right, who was an opera singer in her age and a voice coach. And so you guys all get to meet Eleanor Edwards here. We're going to bring you on right now. All right, there she is. Say hi.
Hi there.
So for those who might, this is Grammy, and but for those of you guys who have followed me here on Facebook for a long time, this is Eleanor Edwards, the lacrosse.
Ellie is good.
The big fan, so she's Ellie. But so one of the things that comes up a lot for lacrosse goalies is the idea of speaking and yelling and directing. And so I thought, why don't we finally put a rest to this, and we'll have good old mom come on and talk about like the things that you taught me as a goalie and also as a coach, because but also if you're just a parent who wants to yell at the ref, what I'm about to cover here is like really important stuff. So mom, let's talk about this. So we have a wide spectrum of parents on here tonight, especially that I can see, from goalies as young as like 12 all the way into college age. Okay. And so I thought, why don't we start by talking about maybe the idea that a lot of goalies yell from their throat. And we know that that's not necessarily the best place to do that from. But can you talk a little bit the difference between like where someone should yell to project their voice and maybe some of the problems that a young person has? Because you teach singers, you teach singing.
Right.
And you teach all ages.
All voices, all ages. Yeah.
Yeah. So everything from like, boys whose balls haven't dropped, which is my joke, but, and I'll share that story in a second, but to girls as well. So can you share a little bit about like the common problems that young people have when projecting their voice?
Well, often what happens, we didn't do a sound check, but is this going to work?
I hear you. You're good. Make sure you look at the camera so we see your eyes.
Okay. Often what happens with people who yell or cheer from their throat is that they're really squeezing, so it gets kind of like that, and it doesn't really go very far. If you can sing or yell with more of an open throat, you can get a better sound, and it'll go further with less effort. The object also is to make sure that you really breathe deeply before you are going to give a direction, say to another person on your team, and this applies to coaches too. If the coach is going to yell a direction to somebody, take the time to take a breath. Otherwise, you have no gas in the tank. You have no energy underneath that. And that's when you tend to squeeze. And that's when you tend to put a lot of pressure on your vocal cords instead of on the muscles around them. You always want to think that you're using the muscles around that very fragile voice box that you have. So breathe deeply. But another thing I want to say is sort of like a dog. You want to bark. You don't want to woof. The woof doesn't carry.
So that sounds okay. So not so we confuse people, because I would think with like a woof sounds like that's coming from deeper than a bark that sounds like it's coming from your throat.
Well, a woof is kind of more open, so it's woof, oh, oh, that kind
It's
of stuff.
it's all airy.
Yeah, right. All breathy.
It's all airy.
Right.
So
So
one of
you
the
want to
things,
connect, you want to connect the breath generally with this area here. So
uh-huh,
the sound is clearer.
right. So one of the things that some of you might have heard me say before is that when a goalie is communicating, and so for our Lacrosse Goalie University members, we have a huge module on lacrosse goalie communication, which is really like the what to call and when.
Right.
But what we're talking about today is the how to call it.
Right.
Um, and and one of the things that I tell my goalies is that if you are just this constant stream of chatter, you never get a breath, and
Right.
you also become noise in the background.
Right.
All right.
Exactly. People
And
don't
so
pay attention to what you're saying.
we don't want to be that. So when you take this cue of actually getting some air in your lungs,
Right.
it's going to force a young goalie to pause
Right.
and then have a bit of a gap between what they say, and
Right.
then be able to speak it more forcefully. Right. So that's what you're saying.
If you talk continually, people can't assimilate what it is that you're saying to them. As you say, it just becomes constant stream of background noise. If you stop and allow time for whatever it is that you've said to sink into that defenseman or to that forward or whoever you want to make the clear to, then they'll be able to pay attention more.
Now that leads me to, we talk about warming up a goalie and getting shot on,
Uh-huh.
but we also, I remember a lot of times that our team would, if we showed up at a game late, it was like a quick warm up, and then we didn't have a chance to do our a 6-on-6 or whatever,
Yeah,
like as a team, we would just get right into the game, and then you're barking out ball position
sure.
without having any warm up for your voice. How like if you took like a really pro level approach to warming up your voice, how long would it take, and what would you do to do that?
Oh, are you talking singing or are you talking coaching? Or
Well, I think singing is a good example, because even an opera singer projecting their voice to the back of a room, right? That's the same as a coach yelling at his team who's not
exactly,
doing what they want him to do. So I
exactly.
guess there's probably a lot of carryover.
Very much so. Very much so. The object, ideally, you start out more calmly. You start out softer, lower in the range. In your speaking range, because ultimately, if you do this enough, you're going to extend your speaking range also. So you're going to be able to say something higher, and you're going to be able to say something or yell something longer the more you do it. So with singing, you would start with short exercises, and then you would get to longer exercises that covered a wider span of pitches. And that would just increase your strength and also increase your breath control and strength. That's hard. Um, you'll find your chest expands a lot when you do a lot of deep breathing and a lot of applying all of this to how you produce a sound. Singers are not self. Singers are strong. They're what I call musical athletes. They have to be. They have to be healthy. They have to be hydrated, and they have to be able to produce that sound as efficiently and as strongly as possible.
A lot of, like, you touched on it, but the athleticism that it takes to be able to project your voice, and you got to think a goalie is doing that for an entire game,
I know that's a
right?
long time.
And for a lot of the parents listening, it's one thing to just say, "Hey, I don't hear you from the sidelines," but you're also telling your goalie, like, "Hey, I need you to run in addition to the things that you're doing." Like, it's a whole nother athletic
Right.
pursuit.
Right.
And I didn't really notice it till much later, but I would always remember it every preseason. When you started to, like, yell at ball position, I was like,
Yeah.
"Jeez, that's a lot of talking." And you would, like, by halfway through practice, you would shut up. So if you notice that your goalie is good for the first little bit of practice and then they forget, they could be fatigued, right?
Exactly. Or they could not have enough carbohydrates going in their body either. or enough hydration.
We talked about that when you and I were talking this afternoon.
Hydration is super important for the vocal cords.
And I don't think people really consider that enough for the lacrosse goalie. And also, again, I'll tell everybody, the lacrosse goalie is the only goalie that I know of that yells out as much as any goalie does.
Right.
Right. A hockey goalie doesn't communicate like this. A soccer goalie doesn't communicate like this. So you're not just telling your goalie to drink water to be hydrated so that they can run. You're also telling them to protect their vocal cords.
Right. Those tissues are very fragile generally. I don't want you to be scared about that, because you can really strengthen them a lot by using them, and by using them correctly. And if you provide the proper breath support underneath them, you will use them correctly. You won't strain them in order to make the sound. What you'll do is you'll just strengthen the vocal cords, and the muscles around them, remember that, so that they set the cords in a position to produce the best sound efficiently.
So just so people understand the anatomy here, like, there are muscles around the vocal cords, and the vocal cords are like rubber bands. Is that a good way to? Okay. Exactly.
Vocal cords are in what look like a little box down here. And I used to think they were this way, but they're not. They're front to back. And so they open and close in order to make the sound, and they vibrate. The higher the pitch, the quicker they vibrate. But that's why men in particular, like coaches, when they want to yell, they think that they need to use their whole neck to produce that sound, but it's still basically done by the cords. And but there are all sorts of structures, I forget how many exactly, 52 sets of muscles or something, that control the flexibility of the what they call the vocal pharynx, which is, or not the pharynx, but the vocal box where the cords are. So they are like two rubber bands across a little tiny jewelry box, a little tiny white jewelry box.
And I've got to mention that the parent who kind of cued this call or this topic today was Regina Pisacani from Northport, New York. So,
hi.
Regina, I hope this helps you.
I hope she's here.
I don't know if she's on right now, but she'll be able to see the replay. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was the idea of, I'm gonna try to get back on Instagram here because I'm not really, that does not seem to be working. The idea is that we all know a coach who speaks with a gravelly voice.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Right. And so I remember,
teachers suffer enormously because they're talking all day long.
Right. So what's kind of important for people to know is that when a coach has a gravelly voice, what creates the gravel is nodes, can you explain what those are?
Well, what causes the gravel is the fact that the vocal cords aren't meeting what I call sweetly, nicely, and creating a good, clear sound. What can happen is that nodes, little pustules, can grow on the vocal cords themselves, and they need to be removed surgically, unfortunately. And they sometimes, as with the experience with your dad, he had vocal nodes at one point, but they were underneath the cords. So they only appeared once in a while, usually when he had to perform. And it was extremely frustrating because he was working on his graduate recital at that point. So what happened was he had to have those removed, and then he had to stay absolutely silent for 2 weeks.
Yikes.
So until the cords themselves were healed. But if you have a teenager or a youngster or even a college kid whose voice is getting really, really, really raspy and they really should be looked at.
They should have.
And it's better to have a baseline anyway. Look at them, see what they look like. See if there's anything going on there. So
we've got a lot of young, like my Instagram is now connecting. So I got goalies coming on. Hey, there's Zach. Hey, there, Morgan. Hey, there, Carter. So I got to share this funny kind of story. The boys will relate to this better, but the girls can have a laugh. So many years ago, I was up coaching lacrosse. It was like one of the first summers I was here in Calgary, Alberta.
Excuse me, I'm gonna hydrate.
Okay. And we were coaching provincial. It was provincials, they're called. Right? So Alberta, British Columbia, whatever. And the British Columbia goalie, whose name escapes me right now, was like a 14, 15-year-old kid, but obviously going through puberty, right?
Oh, poor guy.
Balls dropping, that sort of thing. And when he would yell ball position, you could barely understand him because he was just totally in his throat and it was nothing but gravel. And so at the end of the game, when we shook hands, because BC like destroyed Alberta, whatever, I took the goalie and the coach and I said, I know you guys don't know me at all, but I just want to share this with you real quickly. You've got to get your voice fixed or else you're not going to have a college career at this point. And so one of the things I suggested that he do, and I suggest this a lot to people, is that if you can get your goalie around someone local who can teach just the simplest of voice lessons.
Production, basically. Yeah.
So you would agree that would who would they seek out locally to help them?
I would start with a music teacher in school. And they should be able to, often they will have a program in school where they have even a voice teacher there. And that kid can go to that particular voice teacher and get the kind of instruction that they need to keep them from getting into vocal problems. I used to teach high school kids a lot. And frankly, 12-year-olds were the best. They were the most receptive to the things that I was going to say. And then from then on up, they were already into social things that caused them to create different kinds of sounds or want to sound differently, like somebody they heard on the TV or whatever. Or then they wanted to sing like Mariah Carey, who has like a 5 octave range, and that's just not possible.
Right.
So not without training. But a music teacher in school would give you the best direction. And inevitably there are teachers in the town, private teachers in the town that have had the experience of working with athletes. That's the thing that's the most important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's not something that's, I want everybody to know that it's a very underlooked, misunderstood part of the game, because
did you run across kids when you were playing and coaching that were having problems?
Well, I think you end up, like, I know personally, like I would get tired and I would get a sore throat.
Incredibly physical.
And the biggest part was the sore throat or losing my voice.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because the worst thing that can happen is your goalie loses their voice. So if any of you guys watching have had a goalie who's lost their voice in practice or a game, go ahead and leave a comment, because you need to understand this to help your goalie.
Sure.
Because part of it is technique, but part of it is also endurance.
Well, a teacher can help a student or an athlete like that learn how to what we call place their voice, so that it's not in their throat and they're not producing it in a false or damaging way in any sort. And they can, in fact, after I talked to you this afternoon, I sat down and wrote practically a full page about singing. And one of the things is to get kids, even the boys, to get into some kind of program where there was singing. First of all, it helps you place your voice properly. It helps you work on your breathing, and it builds your stamina. And it also makes you slow down and think about what it is that you're doing, so that when you do produce a sound or you do produce a direction to a teammate, that you're not going to harm yourself. The other thing, to go a little further on that, is that if you find that you are having problems, if your voice is sore or your throat is sore, take care of it. Rest, drink warm liquids, not hot. I've had somebody scald their throat thinking hotter the better, and it's not true. And one little trick that a teacher taught me one time was that if you drink pineapple juice, there's an enzyme in pineapple juice that helps that heal. So warm pineapple juice sounds ghastly, but it might not be either. Warm pineapple juice, or pineapple juice in general, is it's something that would help you heal your vocal cords and your throat. It's not usually your cords that are damaged or hurt. It's all the muscles around it and all of the pharyngeal area. That whole pharynx is what your throat is called. And that whole pharyngeal area can get very sore with overuse. And that's common. I mean, if you prepare for a really heavy, long concert, it's totally reasonable that you're going to be both physically tired, emotionally tired, and vocally tired at the end of that experience. And rehearsals for us used to run 2.5 hours,
Mm.
and that's pretty tough. So that's a long time. On top of that, you're on your feet, you're waiting for other people to do things. This is goalie dumb in a nutshell. I mean,
Yeah.
you're standing on the stage and you're waiting to sing your next entrance, and you're getting nervous about what you have to sing or what's going to happen, or that defenseman is going to come down and get in your way, or that really hot shot forward is going to come and shoot on you. Then your adrenaline rises. So, and singing and performing was exactly the same.
And I think so. A couple things here. One, when as coaches, a lot of coaches don't know what to teach young goalies. So that's why, like, we cover what we do.
Teach
Where
about talking, you mean, and yelling?
Yeah, like there's a lot of people don't, a lot of coaches want their goalie to talk, but necessarily don't know how to teach them how to talk. So that's what
How or what?
Sorry?
How or what?
What
Okay.
to speak. So but what people need to understand is that there's a lot of psychological things that go into this first. Like I started by saying, like, if your kid is not very vocal, or they're shy, or they're meek, and they're playing lacrosse and they're in that crease, and that crease is almost like a safety spot for them,
Yeah.
and they feel they're like, great, they're playing, but now the coach says, hey, I need you to yell ball position, or I need you to tell this kid when to slide. Well, you're dealing with
Does the goalie know that? I mean, do they know what to yell?
No, a lot of times they don't, or they're poorly taught it. So you might have them not taught exactly what to say, but so you have that to overcome.
Right.
And then you have to overcome, like, the personal issues, is like, their dynamics on the team, right? But then
Right.
then they don't have the physical skills with which to yell in a way and project their voice to communicate effectively. So it's a bit of a gong show, and it's an area in the game of lacrosse that's lost. And that brings me to this comment that comes from David, that he says, like, this is great, especially since having a top D2 coach in my area say he doesn't like his goalies talking, and my son is very vocal on the field. Thank you for this topic. Well, David, thank you. And David, I just want to address this D2 coach. So one of the things that I've seen over the years in the sport of field lacrosse is that defensive communication has gone to shit. Like, and in no other sport is it as important as it is in field lacrosse. And the reason being is because the ball, first of all, can move so quickly with such accuracy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, the ball can go behind the cage. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
the ball moves 360 degrees around the field.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that happens in hockey, but not to the degree that it does in lacrosse. Okay. And so that D2 coach who's saying that is missing out on a tremendous aspect of the game defensively. And if I'm the other team's coach, I'm probably running everything from behind the cage, from behind goal line extended. I'm totally picking apart that D because there's no communication. And because there's no communication, all those D are doing way too much. They're looking at the ball and they're losing track of their man. And so a goalie who can communicate and a team who can trust the goalie and their communication becomes a brick wall of
If you tell me there's somebody behind me, then I'm prepared.
Right. And a lot of times, and so David, to your point on this comment, the idea is this, is that like, let's say, just to use a very big generality here, but let's say the ball is on the left side of the field, right? So to the goalie, it's side left. Okay. But a defenseman, and now we've got a defenseman on the crease. All right. And the defenseman is covering somebody. Well, that defenseman is the slide, right? Or we say that defenseman is hot, or that defenseman is, and maybe the defenseman just beyond him, a little bit further to side right, is the second help, right? So you're two. We say that you're two. So if nobody's communicating that very effectively, then those two defensive players have to watch the ball position and their man. And if they get caught ball watching, which happens all the time,
sure,
a pass comes across and the guy that they were supposed to be covering, and they could have been covering easily had they just relied on goalie communication, could not have gotten the ball. Right. So to that coach, Dave, I would argue with them all day long that they're missing out.
Aside and talk to them. That's all.
Yeah. And they've also probably given up teaching it. David, that's the problem. They're probably giving up teaching it. So if your goalie can communicate, like, I don't know a coach, like I really don't know a lot of coaches on the planet who are coaches. They're not just like scheme givers, who don't understand this. Okay, so David, to your goalie, tell him to keep going.
I would think a coach like that would welcome somebody that wanted to participate more.
Yeah, but I think that coach
More
is probably
effectively.
fatigued.
Well, you're probably right.
Yeah,
I'm sure you're right.
and so
You're
somebody
always right.
So Rob writes, where does he coach? That's crazy in my opinion. As a defenseman growing up, I wanted to know where the ball was all the time without having to look for the ball, also known as ball watching. Exactly.
Exactly.
And that's from a dad of one of the top goalies in the country in his age group. So
Right.
so David, to your point, like that's nuts. And that just furthers my point where even though that person is like a D2 coach, I really don't give a shit.
Sounds to
So,
me that deep down that coach needs help.
yeah, right. He needs help. From my mom, ladies and gentlemen, that
Yeah,
coach needs help. So everybody listen to my mother. All right.
you
So
bet. Listen,
mom,
for all the games I've watched, of course,
you've learned a thing or two.
just a
Also, when my mom yelled from the stands as a former opera singer, everybody knew who was talking. Got it?
sorry.
Yeah, right. It's okay. Anything else? Like anything we didn't cover here?
Well, I had a couple of things that I wanted to say. Make sure that you breathe deeply before you do anything, because
Mhm.
you can't run the car without the gas. And bark, don't woof. You know, I think that's kind of cool, frankly.
Yeah.
Focus your tone here, up here into your cheekbones, and get the feeling that you're not singing, you're not speaking or yelling from your neck, but you're yelling with your whole head. So that your head's a huge resonator. And that's something, if the tone is placed in just the right place, it'll carry forever,
Mhm.
carry the length of the field. So with coaches notes I had, mature voices are usually already well placed, like yours is. You're so accustomed to that. There's what coaches tend to develop is a real ring to their sound. Singers call it squealo, and what it is not to be confused with squeezed, but something that really has a whole ping to it.
When I yell, the ref on the other field hears me
Yeah, and if we're in a bar, I can always hear you.
because I go to bars all the time.
Yeah, right. Well, you used to, but
With my
anyway.
squealo.
But if a coach's voice tends to get gravelly, he has the same problem. He's not preparing what he's doing. Generally, it often goes back down to the support that you're putting under what it is you're producing. We talked about gravel. We kind of related that to Anthony Fauci, the doctor down here in the States, who is head of the NIH, I guess it is, and who now is going to be the prime doctor in the next administration. And the poor man has done nothing. He just turned 80, and he has done nothing but said the most common practical things all year long on how to take care of yourself. And
But he had node surgery
because of all of the talking that he did. He developed nodes, and his voice got incredibly gravelly. And then I think it was over Thanksgiving that he had vocal surgery or throat surgery. And his voice now, if you listen to him now, his voice is a lot clearer. Granted, he's an old man, so that his tone is going to be a little different anyway. Let me see. So if your throat is sore, rest it.
Mm-hmm.
Drink warm, not hot.
And let me just add to that for the coaches that are on here. That's what's important is like just like your goalie can get fatigued from stopping shots or running. If you've been running like man down defense for a half hour, your goalie's probably tired of barking out where the ball is.
Right. So, and then a coach should be smart about breaking that up too, and putting emphasis on different players so that those other players get a little rest. If you should ever, and I hope this never happens to anybody, if you should ever feel a pop in your vocal cords, stop.
Mm.
That's something really serious. You may have even ruptured your vocal cords. So you want to be really careful about that. And that generally happens more with singers who put prolonged pressure on their sounds and on their vocal cords in order to produce a sound, like a long high note or a long phrase with a high note in it, kind of thing. So let's see.
We've covered a lot.
Yeah, we have. Well, I wanted to get into the virus actually. Well, a couple of things. If you feel sick when we get into the virus or feverish, do not play. It is really not a favor. You're not doing anybody a favor, even if you're the only goalie. It's better that you take care of yourself than you infect a number of other people on your team, and then your whole team can't play. At least if you drop out for one reason or another, the team can probably continue.
Now, in terms of like colds and flus and viruses and stuff, don't different viruses like go to different, like some viruses go right to your throat? Like some people, or do some people get sick in different ways?
Not really. It affects either. Well, I take that back. You can get a chest infection. You can get, that usually develops into pneumonia or bronchitis. You get sore throats, and of course, a lot of these kids now have tonsils. They don't take tonsils out anymore, do they?
I don't know. I think that's probably different for everybody. But again, just the idea of like, if you're sick, the idea that you can, when you go out and you yell, you're going to do more damage to yourself than you would if you were healthy. I think that's
naturally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I can't read what I wrote. Typical. About the virus, remember to cough or sneeze into your arm, into your elbow, and cough away from people. I know how hard it is on a team, but try to stay away. Try to social distance if you can as much as possible. Wear a mask. Are the kids wearing masks while they're playing?
Some of them are, yeah, and that's a good point, because some of the people have been some of my goalies who are in areas where they have to wear masks while they're play have to then yell through that mask. Yeah. So it's making this even harder. So, yeah. All right, I think we've covered a lot.
Well, I'm sure there's stuff here that I can't read, but
well, we can add to it down the road. We can always put comments in the group later. But Grammy, this was awesome.
You're welcome, honey.
McKenna popped in here on the side. None of you guys see, my daughter popped in the side, and she was like waving, but you couldn't see her. No.
Well, one thing I want to say is, don't forget to breathe.
Yep.
It's so easy when you get into the excitement of the game, your adrenaline starts to rush, and your breath and that's what happens singing too. Your breath just, what we call, hikes up, instead of being down where your diaphragm is, which is right above your waistline. It gets up further and further up, and pretty soon you're breathing right here, and you feel like you're breathing right against the back of your chin. And as a result, your throat muscles just get tighter and tighter. So
we'll end on this comment. This is from Rob Shepard. He goes, "I played for Ron Klausner. We should Google him in college, and he told me you're never too tired to talk. His theory was you have to exhale, so rattle those chords when you do it." Great job, Grammy, from Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rob. That's awesome. So, Grammy, thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
I'm going to cover these next two questions here, but I really appreciate you taking the time. And if anybody ever has like voice questions for this is why I have I've got the direct line to, when someone's a former opera singer, we can teach goalies how to yell. Okay.
Well, I'm not usually on. So if there's a question.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She's my biggest fan. She's always lurking on these things, which is great. So thanks a lot, Mom. I'll talk to you soon. All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right, everybody. That was awesome. All right. So we're going to go back on Instagram here, because they couldn't hear half of what I was saying here, which kind of sucked. But so to everybody, thanks for that. Really appreciate that. I hope that was helpful. If that was helpful, please give us a thumbs up. And you can also reach out to my mom if you got a question, which is great. Going to hire Grammy to help me with my karaoke nights. There you go. That's awesome. We can do that. We can definitely do that. She might charge for that though, Rob, but whatever. It's all good. So listen, I wanted to cover, I have two extra topics I wanted to cover tonight. Okay. We went a little longer than I wanted to, but I'll go long tonight, which is fine. So this one, this topic I've gotten twice in this last week, new people to the group asking, and I get this all the time, the idea of, how to improve the mental strength of your goalie. Okay. Brendan Collins says, I can't believe I missed that. Brendan, we'll get you on later. We'll get the replay up so you can see it. So it'll be really helpful because you got 3 kids who need it. Okay, and because they can do their Fresh Prince of Bel Air Christmas that we got, right? We can make this work. Um, so anyway, we're going to cover this, like how to improve the mental strength of your goalie. So for those of you guys that don't know, I run another website called athletespecific.com and now rebranding it to what's called Mental Performance School. So my full-time gig is coaching athletes in a variety of sports who have like big athletic goals, right? So um, as everybody's well aware, like mental health and mental performance is obviously a big issue for goalies. A lot of goalies have issues like doing well in practice, but not playing well in games, or just, getting to a level of maybe fear or anxiety that then affects their play. And as parents and coaches, we never want to see that happen. But it's very easy for athletes to get overwhelmed. And now with COVID on top of all this stuff, that's just throwing an extra layer of kind of performance management that our athletes need to understand. And so I obviously can't go like ridiculously deep in this topic just because it's a big scope. And a lot of times parents will hire me or programs will call me up when they feel like their athlete's broken. And a lot of times by that point, it may be too late to help fix an athlete. So I want to encourage all of you to understand that and this is my first point of contention, which is like, I want you to get off the fence about being good at your sport. Okay. For those of you listening to me now, you're obviously on one side of the spectrum in terms of like, you want to help your goalie be the best and to be the best that they can be so that they hopefully have a long, enjoyable time in their sport. But I'm here to tell you that if no matter if your goalie is all American and potential and it, or if you're just like, well, we'll see how this goes, I want to encourage you that the sooner you just decide to be really good at this, that a lot of the indecision and a lot of the suffering falls away. Okay. So what's really important to understand is that, and I'll just share with you a story. At some point in high school for me, I developed this idea that I wanted to be the best goalie on the field every time I played, right? That included practice, and then obviously that translated into the games. And then when each week, game after game after game, and then in the summer playing, it was like game after game after game. I just believed that if I did that enough times, that I would eventually be a good enough goalie that I would be a recruitable goalie. Okay. And that's the same attitude I share with my goalies who are part of Lacrosse Goalie University and with my other athletes that aren't necessarily goalies, but they're, Olympic hopefuls and they're professional athletes, things like that. It's like, just decide that you want to be really damn good at this. And then everything else becomes a very easy decision. Okay. Now, in terms of mental strength, what I think this always relates to is a goalie or an athlete who plays well in practice, but then doesn't necessarily live up to their potential on game day. And so the number one thing that causes this is too much of a disconnect between practice and game day. Okay. And a lot of coaches downplay this, a lot of athletes downplay this. And they go, well, I'm going to turn it up on game day. I don't have to work too hard today in practice. I can take it easy, and then we can go from there. That's wrong. That's completely the wrong attitude to take, and it's completely the wrong approach with which to address it. When you make practice, now some people say like, oh, you got to make practice harder than game day, then game day is easy. That's true to a point, but the idea is in terms of not just intensity, but just in terms of environment, people, places, and things, getting an athlete prepared to succeed. This summer we've had goalies where they all of a sudden played a 7-on-7 tournament and they never played one before. And they were like, oh my God, this was crazy, right? But what the hell was that? What just happened to me? I just got shelled, right? Well, that is a disconnect between practice and game day. Now with the new Olympic format coming out, like it's obviously going to be in more people's wheelhouse to kind of prepare for that. But the idea is that you've got to help your goalie draw a connection between the things they're doing in practice and the things they are doing on game day. If they don't do that, okay, then they get to game day and it feels all different. And that can be overwhelming, and that raises anxiety. Okay. The other side of that, help develop the mental strength of your goalie, is to also help them understand the grieving process that goes on when things don't go very well. Okay. So I'm just going to try to find for you an article I did over at athletespecific.com on grief, if I can find it. But the idea here is that every athlete grieves their performance just like they would grieve the loss of a loved one. Okay. And people kind of they're like, wait, no. If grandpa dies, they're not gonna, that's not the same as like losing that game, that tournament last weekend. Not totally true. Okay. Because everybody goes through the same issues. And so there's the article. I'll post the link in the comments. It should be coming up shortly. Yes, perfect practice makes perfect. Exactly. But the idea here is like, how do we relate what we're doing in practice to how it's going to help us come game day? So every athlete will go after. Now, this might sound strange. Why am I talking about like grieving when we're talking about like mental strength? Well, I believe an athlete who understands what's going through their head when they fail is going to get through that sooner. Okay. Now, as an aside to this, I teach all my athletes that there are no big game days. Okay. There's no big game days. So a lot of times parents, or even just a loved one, like could be an uncle or a brother-in-law, sister-in-law, whatever. They say, oh, hey, big game this weekend. That's like the worst thing you can tell an athlete, let alone a goalie. The idea here is that there should be no big game versus a lesser practice. Okay. Right. And Grammy writes in, especially for young ones, they have limited experience with loss. Exactly. I want your athlete to experience losing as quickly as possible because they're going to go through these phases. Okay, now this is a 5-step grieving process. There's more complicated ones if you Google them all. But the first step they go through is denial and isolation, right? So how many times have your goalie, and I know Grammy can attest to this, but the idea is that when I lost a game and I didn't feel very good about it, I didn't want to talk to anybody. Okay. And what happens a lot of times is that as coaches, and as parents, we don't want our kids see our kids suffering. So we're like, come on, we'll go to Chuck E. Cheese and it's all good, whatever. I remember my girlfriend breaking up with me and my girlfriend's best friends that same day trying to take me out for drinks to cheer me up. It was the worst thing ever. Right. So the idea here is that your athlete is going to go through these phases of like denial and also a little bit of isolation. It's totally fine. Now, I know some parents and coaches, they like, you got 24 hours to be a jerk and then you got to come back tomorrow. Whatever. Every athlete goes through this differently. Okay. So your athlete's also going to be angry. They're going to be upset. They're going to be pissed off. Right. And so you've got to let them do that. Now, we don't want them rioting in the streets or breaking stuff. That's not the point, but they're going to go through an anger phase. Okay. Then they're going to go through bargaining, right? Where they just wish they could get that result back. I get it. It's there too. Then they're going to be depressed. Okay. Then finally, they're going to get to a stage of an acceptance. Okay. Now, the reason I share these stages with you is because you've got to understand, you've got to go through that process. Now, like someone like Bill Belichick and the Patriots, he jumps right from loss to acceptance like that. And a lot of people are like, oh my God, how does he do that? Well, from a lot of experience and also a lot of understanding as to the process and understanding that the game to win is the Super Bowl, not every little game in between. One of the things that's affecting the mental performance of our athletes is that every time they play, it's a tournament or it's a weekend or it's a recruiting event or it's something where like everybody's fundraised and shelled together all this money to finally travel like 3 states where they can finally play, and it means a lot. So your goalie's going to feel all this extra pressure heaped on them to have a good day. Our athletes don't have a lot of experience to have what I call the Goldilocks game, right? Meaning like, you're going to have some games you play where the performance you have to have is really high. The team you're playing, it's like hot porridge, man. Sometimes it's too hot, right? And you've got to live with that. Sometimes it's too easy, right? The porridge is cold, but other days it's just right. Right. So I want my athletes to understand that, and I'd like to prepare them as much as possible prior to, like, hey, this is going to be, you're going to see a lot of shots today, or you're not going to see a lot of shots today. But in either situation, there's a level of preparedness they need. Now, in practice, I'm going to try to do my best with my goalie to say, okay, listen, hey, this team we're going to play this weekend, they like to shoot from here, or they've got a really good attackman or a really good midfielder, or their ride is nuts. And I want to play in practice. I want to prepare them so that they can then have the best chance to succeed in the environment that they're going to have happen. Now, a lot of people think that I'm going to be able to give their goalie some like some whiz bang mental trick that's going to help them survive the weekend. And there's some to do and there's some not to do. But overall, I want to give you a framework in your house with which to operate, right? So I want my goalies to come out to practice and take 100% responsibility. I don't care if your coach is a weenie and they don't know how to run practice and you don't see enough shots. It's up to you to then get with your buddies and get practice time. Like one of my Lacrosse Goalie University members, I basically had them, they were like, we're not sure if we should work with you or go to all these camps. I said, listen, the money you spend on me, I want you to go like maybe skip a camp, skip a clinic, and enjoy your, get some of your buddies and get pizza and Gatorade and get shot on Friday night and work on these things, because you're going to get more out of that practice with your buddies than you are at your actual practice, because your coach isn't putting you in the situation to be prepared for the weekend. So, I got a question. Defense breakdown allows goals, not goalie breakdown. Goalie is a team's last chance to correct poor defense. This allows goalies to rise to the occasion and never be the scapegoat. That from Lax Coach Tom on Instagram. That's a great post, buddy. Thank you. I'm sorry, my Facebook guys, you can't see that. So I want you to just realize that we've got to help our goalies get in those situations. Now, to Tom's point on Instagram about how, some goalies and some parents will say, and I say this too, listen, if the team was so damn good, they wouldn't need a goalie. That's not an excuse, though. And Tom, this is not what you're saying. I get it. But this is not an excuse for some people to say like, oh, if I was on a better team, I would have played better. That's not the point. That's where, to help improve the mental strength of your goalie, you want to be using like the goalie cheat sheets that I have for you, lacrossegoalietips.com, understanding like how they did on, what was their save percentage? How do they do on clears? Like what, how is their goalie communication today? How is their ground balls? Like that sort of thing, right? Because that then is helping your goalie focus on the true game, right? The true game, so that they can walk away going like, hey, I know we just lost by 12, but I saved like 70 shots or 70% of the shots. It was a damn good day for me. I don't care that you don't get ice cream after the game, right? That sort of thing. So understand that you've got to bridge the gap between practice and game day. Okay. 1, 2, understand that when your goalie has a bad day, they're going to go through like those 5 stages of grief, and rightfully so. You don't want to rush them out of it, but you also want to help get them through that by understanding that come game day, that regardless of what the score is, you've got to keep track of their performance, their metrics, right? So that they can walk away regardless of what the score is and go, you know what, I had a really good day today. Or, wow, I shit the bed. Right? For lack of a better term, right? It's okay for a goalie to say that, and they should say that, right? Because you want to understand, like, okay, this is what I needed to improve. And, for those of you guys that watched like the Pittsburgh Steelers Browns game this last week, when Ben Roethlisberger threw God, that's a lot hard to say, threw 3 interceptions in the first quarter and they were down 28-0. And then he went and threw for 500 yards. Yes, he can hang his hat on, yes, he threw for 500 yards, but he also threw 3 interceptions and the team lost primarily because of him, right? Tough way to go, but that's what elite athletes deal with, okay? And so as parents, there's no big games. Every day needs to be the same for your goalie because we want your goalie to treat practice just like they treat game day. Okay. So I hope that helps. If that helped everybody, leave me a comment, a like, or whatever. Jody Hall asks, is part of this process getting the ball out of the goal? So Jody, you're referring to my kind of description of like when a goalie has a ball go by them. I think there's a tremendous opportunity, even in a game, for them to take a second and just think, okay, how is that supposed to go? Right? If I had seen the ball and knew where it was going and then moved properly and efficiently, how should I have made that save? Okay. Now, if it's a technique thing, that's great. If it's a physical strength thing, like, yeah, I saw it, I knew where it was going, and I just moved like molasses and you're waiting for Mother Nature to kick in, that's one conversation. But if the conversation is like, I saw it, I knew where it was going, but oh my God, I moved like horribly. I thought I'd moved incorrectly. Now that's a technique thing. So we can take that negative event of the ball going by them, take a second and just have the goalie not pick the ball out of the net right away, right? The ref is usually standing with their hands above their head or whatever, picking out their card to write down who scored and who the assist was. In that time, I would rather the goalie take a second and just see the shooter again and see the ball, same release, and move as they wish they had moved. We're now replacing that negative event with a positive event in their mind. All right. We want to overwhelm that negative event, then that positive event. All right. And so with that positive event. So that is a great little trick. And Jody, thank you for reminding me. But we had a discussion, I think, last year on it with Missy Wilcox, who was the ref. Listen, tell your D to get the ball out of the net for you, right? And give it to the ref while you can work on that thing. Because I can guarantee your defenseman isn't thinking like isn't grieving as much as your goalie is right then and there. Okay, so thanks for pointing that out, Jody. I really appreciate that. And as Grammy writes, Grammy, by the way, you're in the private chat, so nobody can see what you're writing. I'm just getting all these, just so you know. But that's why I also recommend videoing every single game. Grammy stood on at every one of my games and videoed. My mom videoed every one of my games, and then I went home and did video review every single game, right? And so I could then realize like what I needed to do, what I could do better, and that is what made me a high school American. That's what made me a Division I recruit. Was that ability to video. And I'm not talking about paying some like service to video. I'm just talking about getting out there. We all have a high definition camera in our pocket, charged up with a battery. Go buy yourself a little tripod, point it on your goalie, use from like the restraining line, to 5 or 10 yard to the end line. Just let it sit there and just video everything, and then have your goalie go home and do the review. And it doesn't take long. You're not watching a whole game. You're fast forwarding. That is one of the biggest things that will change the mental strength of your goalie, hands down. Okay, hands down, more than a camp or a clinic or a cheap ebook or like whatever. Hands down, that'll make the difference. Okay, so all right. So Jody, thank you for that. Moving on. If anybody's got a question, okay. Coach Tom writes, video review is next level. And Tom, I'm with you, but I'm even going to say like it's no longer next level, it's the level. It's like if you want to be a good goalie, you got to do video review. If you want to be a good athlete, like if I'm a face-off guy, right? And I'm doing face-off practice, for whatever 10, 15, 20 minutes out of practice, I'm putting my phone on a tripod looking down at my face-off guys, right? Like there's no reason why we should be doing it's crazy because I think what people think is like, oh, I don't want to be that parent. Don't get me started on that parent, but whatever. Okay. So, all right. So moving on, if anybody's got a question there, they can ask it. And I want to make sure Chris Santos, I cover this. So Chris, I'll cover this question in a second. moving on to thoughts on the 2021 goalie chest protector rules. And so hopefully I'm going to try to do this here in a second. Bear with me, guys. I'm just looking for my screen. Oh God, where'd it go? Nope, 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 nope. This might be ugly. I might have to reset all this. Hang tight, guys. I'm just going to add my add a new. Okay, you guys are seeing that. Don't want that. That's just nothing but comments. Oh yeah. All right. So let's see what I can do here. I had links set up, so I've got to try to do this separately. So for those of you guys that are watching me live right now, maybe on Instagram or in Facebook or YouTube, could you write in the comments what chest protector you're using and if you've bought a 2021 one? So that would be super cool. All right, so just in the comments wherever you are, just write down what you are in fact writing. Oh, geez, you guys are seeing that. You're not seeing my beautiful face. There's my beautiful face. Hi. All right, let's do this. Okay, so just getting this down. Boom, boom, boom. All right, so the first thing I want to point out, this is from US Lacrosse, and I'll put the link into the chat for everybody to see. This is the link to US Lacrosse website with the information on, oh brother, there we go. STX 600. So Joe Rose has the 2021. Rob's got the Maverick EKG, right? That's you, Rob, right? And then I'm going to try and find where my other page go here. Oh, geez, chest protectors. Sorry, guys, I've got too many pages open here. Oh, there we go. Okay, here we go. All right. So is that going? All right. So on this page, that I just put the link in there for everybody to watch. This lays out the general rules. And so for Chris, to answer your question, yes, you're supposed to buy a new one. Okay. So this hasn't happened, I think, ever in lacrosse. And I just want to talk a little bit about, so this was put into place like 100% for like with the excuse to protect from commotio cordis. Okay. Now, inside our group, our private Facebook group, creating the Lacrosse Goalie of the Future, for those of you guys who are members, if you just search for commotio cordis, I covered this, I think, last year a little bit. Commotio cordis is basically a disruption of the heart rhythm. It is more prominent in boys than it is in girls. But when I say prominent, it's like minuscule. But unfortunately, over the years, we've had kids who have died. It also happens a lot it happens in hockey. It also happens in Little League baseball and stuff. So the idea here is that these new rules were put into place with commotio cordis as the kind of the catalyst. Let's put it that way. Okay. Now, one of the things to also back, I can't remember the year exactly, but a Cornell defenseman died in a game where he was struck in the chest and died on the field, and I believe too the game was like meaningless, which was really disappointing. And so one of the things that happened because of this is commotio cordis has been around for a long time. However, and actually, when I was in high school, I was at the Syracuse lacrosse camp, and a goalie had died at another camp that same week. Like word came, I don't know how word came back then. We didn't have cell phones or smartphones, but the idea was that it's a bad deal, and we don't want to see anybody die, obviously, being a lacrosse goalie. So I don't want anybody who's hearing me now to freak out like, oh my God, you're never stepping in the cage again. It's not the point, because the chance of impact is really small. So I wanted to just kind of to start by sharing that, and let people know kind of what's going on there. Now, the one that the chest protectors that have been approved. Okay, now if I can do this right, I'll pull this in here, and then you should all be able to see it. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, look at me go. All right, there it is. All right, so these are the chest protectors that have been approved. Now, for everybody's information, I do not use any sort of affiliate links. If you buy one of these off of any link ever on my website, I don't get a dime. I think sites that do that are kind of bunk. I don't like it. But this, on lax.com, I'll just put the link in there for people who want to take a look at the link. There it is. This is the list. This is the complete list, I believe, as of today that that is that are approved. Now, I'm going to talk about something that nobody really wants to talk about, but I don't like this shift to the commotio cordis guards, not because they don't protect goalies. That's not the point. I am from a generation of lacrosse goalies, and for those of you guys that heard my talk with Jim Beardmore ages ago, Jim Beardmore was a goalie back in I don't remember what it was now, where his dad, who was the head coach at Maryland, said you should take your chest protector off because it makes you slow, right? I played at a time where chest protectors had to be put into the rules. Okay. And then we all got this new chest protector called the Brian Edlick Mayer chest guard, which was just basically paper thin. I still have it. And I don't like this new generation of chest protectors because to me, the issue for our goalies is not just commotio cordis. It's an overall culture of protection for our goalies because I don't want to protect a goalie for the tiny chance of getting hit at the chest the right time when you're also getting struck in the delts and the bicep and the forearm and things like that. This to me is not about protecting a heart from impact. It's about empowering your goalie to be a better goalie. Okay. So I want people to understand that, where I come from on this, because the idea here is that we're doing one little thing here. And so, sorry, I've got like 12 thoughts in my head here, but I'm kind of pissed at these new chest protectors. One, that y'all got to buy them. Two, that they're like minimally $100, or there's the STX Shield 200, which is here. I don't have the Shield 200 up, but it's that one in the middle, right down here. Okay. Out of all of these chest protectors, the two that I like are actually the STX 200 and the 400 because they have shoulder caps. Okay. So back in the 90s, we were going in the right direction because Warrior built, like, they had an ML chest pad that had shoulder caps and upper arm guards. I'm a big fan of that because I look at protection in one of two ways. One, it's to protect your goalie from getting bumps and bruises or having their heart malfunction, which is really rare and just for the boys. But the other point is that I want your goalie to be protected in a way so that they feel more empowered in the cage. And when we talk about like mental strength for your goalie, part of being mentally strong in the cage is not feeling like you're going to have a ball shot through your left testicle, right? And that sort of thing. I want your goalie to be protected, not that a chest protector will protect your left chest testicle, but you get my point. Okay. The idea here is that these are not, in my opinion, aren't adequate enough. Okay. But it is what it is. I can't do anything about it. Now, the rules state that you have to use equipment that is for lacrosse, which means that you can't go out and use like a hockey shoulder pad or a hockey elbow pad or a hockey chest protector. What makes me upset about this new NOCSI approved NOC SAE rule is that I think it's a money grab. I think what it did was it eliminated a lot of manufacturers and limited it to Warrior, Maverick, and STX. Like, I'm glad Maverick came on board. I think STX has done kind of a better job here. I like the Warrior Nemesis, and I'm going to try to pull these in and see if you guys can see them, because and I'm going to show a really cool. Well, that is coming up. There it is. Okay. So this is the Warrior Nemesis that a lot of people like. The problem with this chest protector, in my opinion, is that a lot of guys wear it too tight to the chest. Okay, they wear it like as a form-fitting chest, and it doesn't really I'm not a huge fan of that, but some guys like that tight fit. I just don't think there's enough protection on it. I think there's just the we're losing. A lot of goalies get in the cage and adopt a really narrow stance with the elbows. This vertical stick position that I don't like, that I see a lot of goalies using, I really feel has been born out of protection. It's born out of fear. It brings the gloves in front of the chest, and it reduces a goalie's ability to move effectively to the ball. Okay. So I'm not a fan of the vertical stick position because I think it's just goalies who are nervous. They're nervous about getting hit, and they don't feel good about it. Right. So the Warrior Nemesis Pro, like, it probably feels fantastic. And a lot of our goalies have gone to this, and that's fine. But I think, if your goalie needs to be prepared to take a ball off the chest, that's something that our goalies are missing, especially our young goalies, is what I call equipment hardening, which is a lot of goalies will not get in the cage and take a shot off the chest because they just don't want to get hit there. And I would encourage you to help your goalie learn how to get hit off the chest by using tennis balls and having them take shots off the chest or the lower abdomen and getting used to what that feels like. Because a goalie who's never had that done it can become very afraid because they haven't ever experienced that. So goalies will pick a chest protector and say, "Oh, I like the fit of this," but they don't actually get in front of a ball and go like, "Oh my God, if I got hit with a ball on this chest protector, I would hate it." Okay. So just keep that in mind. The place to look for these things where all this stuff gets approved is at Signet. And I got some comments in here. Nailed it, money grab. Thank you. And then uh, Brendan Cullinan writes, "We should find some research that you can get what happens if you get hit too hard in the shins." Exactly. Jennifer Peacock writes, "Oh, this is trouble. Laugh out loud. Beardmore tried to get Camden to jump in without his chest protector." Yeah, I love Jim Beardmore, but man, that's a dying breed there. Okay. Now I don't know why this is all jumping around on me here, but can you guys see that? This is Signet. This is the website for equipment, and if you use the I see it's just changing. If you go to the USA Lacrosse website, which is the USA Lacrosse safety /safety/equipment, and you can find the chest protector facts, it'll link you to this. There's also the Safety Equipment Institute. This is that same page. But when you dig deep, what's really interesting here is you find out that there's fire and emergency services, industrial safety, law enforcement, recreational sports like riding horses and other, and then U.S. lacrosse. I just don't like the optics on this, and so it bothers me tremendously. So now, Joel Rose, you're gonna love this. Okay, what Joel Rose did, and Joel, how old's your son now? I can't remember offhand. 13. What Joel did was he took his STX Shield chest protector and he went and he like sewed on or velcroed on shoulder caps from the older model chest protector. So for those of you that are kind of pissed that you got to buy a new chest protector and haven't done so yet, I think you're going to need to do that. I don't know how they're going to enforce this. I really don't see coaches or like refs. They may do it. Refs may check, hey, are you NOXI approved? Especially defensemen have to wear shoulder pads next year. Overall, I just again, it's to restrict people from buying hockey equipment, hockey shoulder pads or hockey elbow pads, which are better in a lot of ways. So we're going toward this, but this is what Joel Rose did, which was to just adhere those shoulder caps. I'm a big fan of this. Like, I have two shoulders that are like totally beat up from too many lacrosse balls. Okay. And so this is a fantastic idea. I love what Joel did here. And so STX. So STX. Oh yeah. Oh, good. Okay. So Joel writes STX agent caps. So the agent chest protector caps that he took off of that and put on this. So it is STX manufactured, right? Joel is sneaky like that, so he knows how to make that work. But I just don't think that this is if your goalie needs shoulder caps, which most goalies do, and then we're gonna have to find a workaround, which is probably shoulder pads on top of your chest protector. All right. Rob Shepard writes, Ashby has been hit more times in the heart since he got the EKG. Coincidence maybe this fall than ever before. When it hits him, he can't feel it. So that's awesome, right? That is good. Okay. I'm not, like I said, I'm not knocking like protection from commotio cordis. What I'm considering is that we have a whole lot of other goalies that have other protective issues, okay, that need to cover, right? And so that's really, really important. And Ashby just came off of an all-star game or an all-star nod for the club lacrosse championships, as a lot of our goalies have, which is great. So congrats. But there's a kid getting shot on by other 2023s, the best 2023s in the country, right? So that's really important to understand. The EKG. So these two that the EKG, a lot of people are liking. Oh, can I get it over here? Hello, boom, boom. There's that. Okay. A lot of people are liking this one. It's pricey at $169, but it fits. A lot of people like the fit, and they like the two Velcro straps down at the butt here, the back. The one complaint I've heard about this, sorry, no, it was with the STX with the shield, that it doesn't really bend. If your goalie bends over, it doesn't really bend enough. But what I encourage everybody to do with their new equipment is to really work the heck out of it. All those seams here, if you can see your screen, all those seams, those hinge points, you just want to work the heck out of those, and that'll help that pad start to flex around the body, but not lose its protective nature. Okay, so right there, right. So all those little squares, those are designed to flex and move. Okay, which is good. And the Maverick actually has this crease across the middle that helps with that. Okay, so that's that. The shield. Let me just drop that in there. There's the shield. The shield 600. Okay. Jody Hall. The last year we got a new helmet, and this year we got chest protector, and JR has ended up getting hit in the head more. I tell you, man, it's part of it. Okay. Melanie Grinstein, I see you. Right. Right. It's like a magnet, dude. It's like a magnet. Be curious now, not to be completely morose, but wouldn't it be horrible if we had like all these goalies drop of Comosio this year than ever have before with all these new chest pads? But that's really dark thinking. I don't want to think like that. So who's that? Is that Rob? The two-piece Maverick Max EKG allows for great movement and bending versus the other one-piece models, in my 2025 son's opinion. That's cool. Love it. Love it. Who is that? Who? I can't tell who says that. All right. Sorry, I can't see who that is. Oh my God, we got a lot of questions over here. Why aren't these showing up in my thing? John Driscoll writes, my 2023 wears the 600. Oh, this is the best. That's not the. Sorry, guys. That's the thread. That's our coach. So for those of you in our Facebook group, the Korean Lacrosse Goalie of the Future, we've got a big long thread on chest protectors. And so here's the thing. Your goalie needs to try them on. All right. But I want you to understand something. So for a lot of you guys listening, you've already purchased one. Okay. I hope you don't have to purchase another one. But a couple things that I would encourage here. One, if you can borrow one to try and get in the cage and get shot at, first with tennis balls and then lightly with lacrosse balls, to get to feel what that impact feels like. Okay. A lot of goalies, as I mentioned before, get caught off guard when they actually get hit with a ball. Right. This isn't like hockey goalies that are hit in the chest and the arms all the time. Lacrosse goalies, and I think this is one of the problems with the evolution of lacrosse goalies, is that lacrosse goalies are trying to catch everything with their stick because they don't want to catch it with their body. Okay. That's a problem. That's why I believe we haven't seen the best lacrosse goalies yet in our sport, is because we haven't had enough young goalies come up through development just ready to soak one off the knee, but be happy because they're protected on the knee, right? Or on their shin, or on the little flabby part on the inside of the thigh, right? So the idea is like getting used to how to make saves with equipment. And I believe field lacrosse goalies are underprotected and therefore not learning well enough how to make saves with their body, as opposed to trying to get shots with their stick all the time. Okay. So I believe the best goalies of the future will be the ones that make that transition, that go, oh, I can't get my stick down to that shot. I'm going to put my foot in there. And now I believe you guys can't see my face. Move myself down because now I'm covered there. So I'm moving. Look at me go. All right. So does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Joel Rose writes, I recommend going to an actual retailer for reviewing these prior to purchase. Try them on. People who bought the STX 500 last year are pissed. It's very true. Who's that? Who's got the Shield 600? I can't see your name, unfortunately, but we have a Shield 600 that we are looking to unload. Will be a heck of a deal. If you guys can connect there, that'll be great. That's great. Who wrote? Is that Rob? Holding out to buy the Noxie approved version 2 chest protectors? Right, exactly. The ones that they come out that offset the version 1s. Okay, that's really good to understand. So I just want everybody to know. So it is what it is. We can't not wear it, but I don't know how these are necessarily going to get what's the word? Evaluated. Like, is the ref going to lift up your penny and say, show me? Are we going to see more regulation in high school games than in summer club, even though this rule is supposed to apply to like senior men's club? It's just an insurance thing, obviously. So if you are playing a game and you are relying on the U.S. lacrosse insurance, that if usually if you play with a local club, now Joel, you can probably speak to this as well. Police, thank you. Rob Shepard, for those of you guys who want to reach out to Rob if you want a 600, he's got one to unload. And thank you, police is the right thing. So the point is that if you're like riding on the U.S. lacrosse insurance with your team and all of a sudden your goalie goes down, but they're not wearing a Noxie approved chest protector and they die of commotio cordis, you're not covered. Okay. Now, if you have alternative insurance, that's up to you. I would like to see people cause a stink on this, but more for the shoulder caps and the arm pads. But what this has basically done is it has flushed out other chest protectors. Now, not that these aren't the best ones anyway. In my opinion, basically Warrior and STX have always been at the front. Maverick has been very strong with these Maverick EKGs. A lot of people love it, so that's great. But I still wish we had more options with shoulder caps and upper arm guards. Where am I looking here? Where did I put it? Nope. Hello. No, I've lost it altogether. I was just trying to pull that screen up, but now I can't find it. Again, too many chest. There's the Nemesis. Okay. For those of you who can't see it, there's the Nemesis again. Okay. So I wish they had made the Nemesis like they made it back in the ML pad back in the 90s, that at least had optional shoulder caps and upper arm guards. But that's it. It is what it is. But just for all of you with younger goalies, I've been asking this question a lot of our goalies that are members of Lacrosse Goalie University. The ones I'm on the phone with like weekly with some of them. Others I'm doing goalie audits once a month. But the question is this: if your goalie is not willing to put a part of their body in front of the ball and they're only trying to get their stick there, that to me is not goaltending, right? That to me is a goalie who is going to be stuck in their development, and they're not going to ultimately be that ultimate goalie that uses more of their body to make saves. Okay. Now, what we see is you see a pro goalie who does that. You may see a college goalie do that. But what ends up happening is that those goalies to me are on the opposite side of a curve, but they're still not the best goalies in my opinion. Okay. But what I know is that the goalies who come through the sport and they are better protected and they're more willing to learn how to put their foot, their knee, their shin, their shoulder, their elbow in front of a ball, they're going to make more saves, and they're going to get so good at it. They're going to go through the sport, high school, college, into the pros, and that by the time they get to that college or pro level, they're going to be so good at using something other than their stick to make a save, which is what every other goalie does, right? A hockey goalie does that. A field hockey goalie does that. I just saw today Trans World Sport talking about cycle ball. Have any of you guys seen this? Mind-blowing stuff. but the idea is Jennifer Peacock reached out to Rob Shepard, but the idea here is that what are we doing as a goalie, right? Are we trying to make saves, or are we just trying to make saves with our stick? Right. If you sign up to just make saves with your stick, you're going to get passed over by a goalie who uses more of their body. All right. So stick plus body equals goaltending. Exactly. Exactly. Jennifer, reach out to him. Maybe send him a direct message. I'm not going to post that because your phone number's on it, and who knows who'll call you. Right. But anyway, so it's all good. So listen, guys, holy smokes, an hour and a half, another Wednesday, 90 minutes talking about lacrosse goaltending. I hope you loved it. Joel Rose writes, yep, U.S. lacrosse insurance will hose you if you don't follow the rules. Okay. If it is the goalie, in my experience, if it is their idea, they will wear it better. Jody Hall writes, but for the added protection, it works better if it is the goalie's idea. In my experience, if it is their idea, they will wear it better. True, but we need a culture change in this sport, and we need a big culture change where people just go, enough of this BS. Like, pad up, let's go. Right? You're not becoming the best goalie you could be. We're putting you in here half naked. Against a ball that's like a hockey puck, and a hockey goalie would never say, geez, if I could just shed these arm guards or these gloves, I'd be better. Just don't do it, right? So when we have that experience, I know you understand, Jody. I'm picking on you, right? So everybody, I love Jody Hall. I'm not angry. I'm just pointing. I'm not angry at you. I'm just pointing at you. So, all right. So listen, everybody. Happy New Year. This is the second one of the year, so off to a bang. I wish you guys all the best this week. I hope your goalie kicks ass, and wherever you are, I hope you're taking a little bit of a break. All right, if you're getting one, I hope you're playing your fall sport now, and we're hoping to cram in lacrosse come March. But I hope for all of you guys, I'm hopeful that everybody gets to play. Listen, now is a great time. Here comes the pitch, but now is a great time to set your goalie on the right path to have the best season ever. Okay. So with that in mind, if I can help you, and we've got a lot of Lacrosse Goalie University members here listening, all right? Some are lurking. I see you. But if I can help your goalie, I want to help your goalie. Okay. So head to lacrossegoalietips.com/coaching. Okay. And I'm not cheap, but I aim to be the best damn thing you spend your money on. So for those of you guys that spent money on an EKG and bought a new chest protector, but you haven't used me for a goalie audit, shame on you. Okay. But as always, I want you to know that that's why I do this. I want you to hear. Chris Santos, thanks for responding, and thank you, everyone. Stay safe and be great. Yep, no worries, Chris. Good luck with shelling out the cash for that new chest protector, or reach out to Rob Shepard too. All right, so listen, for the amount of money you guys shelled out to buy a new chest protector, you could have had me do a goalie audit for you, at least one. And like I said, I guarantee that everything that I do. So if you're not happy, you get your money back. But I've never had to give a refund in 20 some odd years of doing this. So with that in mind, when you're ready, lacrossegoalietips.com/coaching. Okay. Yeah, you're going to want to come in at the graduate level, not the undergraduate level, graduate level, and the master's level. And like I said, it's not cheap, but I'm proud of it, and I'm happy to help you guys. Chris Santos, I'll find a way. Love it. All right, guys, have a great week. I'll see you guys in the group creating Lacrosse Goalie of the Future. If you got any questions, you can email me, Coach Edwards at lacrossegoalietips.com. Let's make 2021 the best damn lacrosse season ever, masks and all. All right, guys, take care. Cheers. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Wherever you are, do me a favor, hit the like button. Please subscribe. Leave me a comment. Really helps the algorithm. And in exchange, I got a bunch of freebies for you if you want it. Head over to lacrossegoalietips.com and lacrossegoalieuniversity.com to get all the freebies I put out there for our lacrosse goalies. And when you're ready, head over to athletespecific.com and grab my free automatic negative thought download. Right, great for athletes of all sports. Thanks for watching again. See you soon.